People have always thrown around terms to degrade and to put others down. Weakling, loser,
Like my style?
crybaby.
Hit the subscribe button so you don't miss any future
It's often
videos.
done in a disparaging way, to cut somebody's sense of self down, And a lot of people do talk about what they think a loser is. Many people do associate it with weakness. And on the other hand, we do have a lot of interest in strength and being the best versions of ourselves. It's very humanistic. Perhaps being the loser is associated with, the opposite. The submission, perhaps the acceptance, the complacency. So I have an opinion too. I feel like I haven't really ever expressed it because I never really needed that word. It never applied to me, nor did I feel, compelled to use it against others. So, there is an archetype, and many people use archetypes pretty reliantly and heavily to kind of base a lot of their romanticized ideas about life. From there, we can start to categorize people and groups and, even form stereotypes for those behaviors that we see based on perhaps individual characteristics that we once associated with something. Maybe whatever it means to be human. So, the loser perhaps is something a bit far away from what we would depict as strength, as resilience, as fortitude. A loser would be crushed under the weight of perhaps his own mind, his body, his surroundings, But let's go deeper. A loser, in my opinion, is not just somebody that sits around and waits for the world to happen. I think there's a lot worse things that a loser could be, and perhaps going to the extreme might clear the definition. So, if a winner is somebody that strives for excellence, that prioritizes empathy, that tries to bring others to the top, then the loser would be the opposite of that. The people that tear others down. There's a lot of negativity out there. Social media is a place that you can hardly travel without being pulled down. And to navigate these environments nowadays, you do need to have a sense of, anonymity or identity that is so, set that can't sway you. Losers are swayed and give in to that toxic urge to gossip, to bring others down, to hate, simply put. I think the loser is somebody that refuses love. It's not that they can't feel it, it's that they push it away. And in doing so, they refuse themselves. They would rather live with an idea of themselves or the world that is a bit far away from perhaps what people experience, what they go through. There's so many people that are suffering, and I think the loser is one that turns a blind eye to it. It could happen right in front of them and they wouldn't flinch. Maybe their heart has turned to stone. So these qualities that I describe are more emotional by nature, but I think that's because, the relational sense of connection is probably the most important for me. I think, our experience with one another is what gives life meaning, and if somebody was to reject that, then they would basically be stomping over a big portion of what it means to be alive, in my opinion. So if you're religious or if you're spiritual, you might have a different ideology about how, certain larger aspects of life play out. And so maybe for you, a loser might be somebody that doesn't follow your same way of thinking. And that's something, that would be considered a bias that I think most of us would have, even if we're not religious. We could still have that bias. We could necessarily associate the character of the loser as being somebody that doesn't think, doesn't act, and doesn't perceive the world the same way as us. That's not exactly the case. If we just choose to alienate what we don't like as being less than us and being a loser, then perhaps we ourselves are embodying that mask. So the loser isn't really a person. It is a character that evolves through many decisions, through many perhaps regressions, to transform themselves into something like this. Nobody's born a loser, and maybe nobody's born a winner, but it's the challenges we experience and how we react to them that kind of dictate what end of that stick that we end up on. And even still, it's all subjective. We can definitely agree that certain components of life are pretty consistent across the board. People would prefer to live rather than to die, and they would like their basic needs met, like food, water, shelter, clothes, etc. This is pretty important stuff. And having those is definitely essential to feeling, able to begin to consider, to contemplate, and to connect. So, of course, that's a big aspect of it too. And I'm starting to lose that train of thought. But the main point is that the mask that's put on is one that comes oftentimes over history. It is pretty associated with denial, with rejection. The winner isn't necessarily a product of acceptance of positive outcomes either. It's just that the loser is one that, it's very odd. It's almost that the loser would prefer the negative outcome because they're not ready to handle the positive one. You know, they have their basic needs met, and you know, they realize that the weight of responsibility does fall onto them to pursue the life that they want, and yet they still reject it. The cards available to them do sometimes line up in their favor, and you know, whether it's a bad day or a bad year, things just seem to continue to go downhill, and the mindset never changes once it crashes. So these patterns that we see, these consistencies, are very clearly, you know, a reflection of decisions that have been made, and therefore personalities that have been developed. So being a conscious person allows you to make the final verdict. You can't choose the outcome, but you can choose the reaction. So when those bad things inevitably happen to you, you can choose to respond to them with love, with kindness, or you can stand up, you can walk away, and you can begin to wear that mask. There's many paths. You can take so many roads into the future. Perhaps there's no right or wrong path, there's no wrong or right decision, but you will know, you'll feel it when you did something that isn't you, that doesn't align with how you view the world, or you know, how you know, would receive everything around you. And losing is in some part about going without. So if you aren't able to respond well to those periods of going without, then you won't be able to respond to those periods of abundance and being with. Because in the moments of absence is when the human character is revealed to its fullest degree, and whatever mask that previously seemed to fit is the one that most likely becomes the embodiment of this character, you know, in its purest essence. And it can be a pretty scary thing. So the loser at the end maybe was somebody that was terrified of having it all and knew that they did, so they pushed it away. They were scared of what they could have become should they have decided to go all in, to give. So they took from others, they took from the world, they took from themselves, and then they were reduced to next to nothing, an empty vessel, just floating in the winds. Who can save those individuals besides himself? When you are on that doorstep and you have to face everything that you are, everything that this world is, that life is, it's hard. And nobody said it was ever going to be easy, but your attitude is everything. the way that you carry yourself and continue forward is going to dictate a lot of things for you, and ultimately will serve as a mirror for those events that lead, that follow. So even when you have nothing, you do have everything. And the loser is the one that isn't quite able to see that. They can't quite see the potential. They can't quite see the patience, the plan. They can't quite see the purpose, the reason. And so they can't quite see the picture. It's not ugly, but it is what it is, you know? You can't force anybody to be anything. And people can change, but what's bleached in those moments is essentially a stamp of our soul. And who knows? Maybe no amount of life experience could really change the person that we are. Or maybe all it takes is one moment, one connection, one person reaching out their hands for yours, one word. And if you can speak that into existence, if you can receive finally what has been offered, then being a loser isn't something that can be anymore. It's not even a word of the vocabulary. Because when that change, that shift happens, when the person, the individual, believes, that glimmer, sparkle of hope, however small, then they have regained their humanity. They have returned themselves to whatever it was that they were at the beginning of all things. And from there, the only way is up. Now, it's a long road, of course, but nobody said life was supposed to be easy, that this path was just unraveling to a comfortable outcome. It takes a lot. And the road to fortune is paved with many challenges and obstacles. Being a person that believes necessitates that you get back up, that you fall, that you get back up, that you fall, and that you get back up. No matter what. To fight is to live, and to live is to know, and to know is to be, and to be is to love. So, if you can be, you can know that you are, however small, you are. It's not you aren't, you are. If you can believe, then you can love. And if you can love, then there's nothing that's impossible in this life. There's no place that you can't reach, that you can't travel. There's no connection that is too difficult to touch. The possibilities are endless because you are. You are. You are. Are you?